Fighting for freedom, liberty, and the restoration of the Constitution. The Patrick Riggins Show. Call in now at 865-243-8255. That's 243-TALK. And now your host, Patrick Riggins.
Welcome back to the Patrick Riggins Show. Gargling a little Diet Mountain Dew there. Just drove all the healthy people crazy. Don't drink that Mountain Dew.
I get you some tea with some honey in it.
Some honey and lemon.
Shot of moonshine.
Yeah. Well, I'm not Mariah, so. Anyway. Well, one thing I want to talk about this week, with all the problems going on in the Middle East right now, a lot of our supposedly smart people in Washington are suggesting, hey, more foreign aid is the answer. Here's a quick fact. In 2010, which are the latest numbers I could find, I couldn't find any for 2011 or so, but we sent $11.4 billion just to Afghanistan. That's just to them. That's about $326 per person in that country. Now, you may say, hey, Patrick, that doesn't sound like a whole lot.
Hey, Patrick, that doesn't sound like a whole lot.
Yes. But I would tell you the average household income in that country is around $300. So we are sending the equivalent of each household 108% of their income each year. That's on top of what they're already earning. So if their average is 300 and we're sending 326, they're effectively making double their household income. And that's if it made it to the population, which it doesn't, as we discussed on this show last week. We do this all over the region, trying to bribe the local populations to become just like us, a nice little America over there in the Middle East. How long is it before we're going to realize this does not work? At least the Libyans are starting to be like America. They have been trying to co-opt the armed gangs by paying them money to help police the areas in which they are based. The Libyan government calls this their High Security Committee. And what it's doing is starting to integrate these different armed gangs into the regular police force. Now, he started paying each gang member a salary of as much as $900 to join the Libyan police force, that country's police force. Now, this is in sharp contrast to the average regular police salary of $200. What has this caused? Well, other than the regular police to complain, what do you think happens when you reward an activity? Right, you get more of it. All of a sudden, these gangs are exploding in growth. The official estimate of the number of rebels who actually fought in the 8-month civil war against Gaddafi was around 30,000 people. But the number of gang members on the payroll of the High Security Committee has reached several 100,000. So you had 30,000 people fighting, but when the government started paying those who fought to join the local police force, now all of a sudden you have several 100,000 saying they fought. A Benghazi-based lawyer named Khalid Hadar is quoted in one story saying, all these militia and entities are fake ones, and the numbers are mushrooming. The government is only making temporary solutions and creating a long-term disaster. Welcome to how we do things in America, Mr. Hadar. Whoever is over there advising your government is obviously someone who thinks government has the answer for everything. What these people are doing is what we all do every day. We are doing what is best for us. And we will make that decision based on a number of factors. But when you inject government into the equation, you distort the natural decision-making process. Just like in this country, if you reward something, you get more of it. If we pay people not to work, we'll get more people not working. If you give people free food, you'll have more people lining up. Our government knows this. So why does it pursue bad policies? Because it wants control over you. If I give you money, housing, food, I can control what you do because you'll do whatever I say to continue to receive the goodies I give out. So what is the answer? What do we do in regards to the Middle East turmoil? It's really very simple. Pull everyone out. We do not need any of our personnel in any of these unstable countries. Now, Ron Paul, a favorite of our show, was interviewed on Neil Kavuta's show on Fox the other day and was asked about this situation. He was first asked about sending money, and is that a good idea, and would it help us in the region? Now, a quick side note, the audio on this is not terrific, but I think you'll hear him okay. But here's what he said when he was asked about that.
The principle of us trying to influence the world and own the world and change the world by producing money, printing money, and sending it over there, it's failing, and we ought to give up on it. What good was that $40 billion or so that we gave to Mubarak and to Egypt? It finally fell apart, and there's chaos there now. So I would say it was a bad investment from the beginning. We bought the government under Mubarak, and now there's a new government, whether it's Libya or Egypt or what it might be like in Syria later on. It will be the Al-Qaeda that will take over, so we don't benefit, Israel doesn't benefit, the taxpayer doesn't benefit. It's a foolish policy, and it will come to an end. The sooner the better.
A lot of the arguments I hear for intervention is if we don't, then Russia and China will sneak in there and gain a foothold in the region. Here is Dr. Paul's answer to that.
I think they're smarter than that. They probably won't do it, but if they do, I think the Soviets and the Russians had their fill of it when they were in Afghanistan. I mean, they were stung badly. They wised up and left and went through the disintegration of their empire. China doesn't have a history of doing this. They're more like capitalists. You know, they actually sell us stuff, save money, invest in Iran and invest in these countries. So they do not have the same characteristics that we have had for 100 years of putting troops overseas and occupying country and picking and choosing dictators. So I think it's a possibility, but unlikely, and if it did, it would fail for them. If it's failing for us, it would fail for them as well, but I'd let them have the burden and the problems and the complications rather than have the American people suffer from the consequences.
Amen. He was also asked about his overall opinion on our foreign policy, and he gave this short answer.
It's not in our national self-interest to have this position that we try to dictate to the world who their leader should be and who the dictator should be, and that we can buy our friends. I don't believe it's possible.
See, our country acts as if we pull out of these other countries, then all heck is going to break loose. I've got news for our so-called leaders. It's already broken loose. Despite the fact we have had our nose in their business for all this time. We aren't going to change a people who don't want to change. All we can do is welcome the ones who want to leave and start a better life here in America, just like we used to do in this country. If all the talent, knowledge, and creativity in these people's minds is brought here and put to work, then we will benefit. Truth be told, though, a lot of people will start getting fed up with the status quo over there and take matters into their own hands. We saw that this week in Benghazi where hundreds of protesters stormed the compound of the Islamic militia suspected in this attack we had against our embassy. They overwhelmed the place and ran all of the militia out of the area. The protesters were shouting this whole time, "No to militias." But these guys weren't through. They got in their vehicles and drove to another Benghazi headquarters of a militia group and attacked it as well. Now, this militia didn't run off. They opened fire on the unarmed protesters, well, largely unarmed, and wounding at least 20 and possibly killing 3. Thus, I guess, driving home the idea that maybe protesters want to bring some guns next time they take on an armed militia. But the point is, the people have tasted some freedom, and not all of them are ready to live under a repressive Muslim rules. when they get themselves and their country straightened out, then we can put an embassy staff together and send it over. Until then, we need to stay out of their business and out of all these other countries. Just look at Pakistan. Our embassy over there is running commercials apologizing for this crazy anti-Islamic film. Why don't we just shut up about it? Why not just ignore the film and let it die on its own instead of constantly reminding these people of its existence? It's because our administration in all of Washington, and government for that matter, is seriously lacking in people who have a backbone. Leaders who will stand up for what is right no matter who attacks them for having these ideals. People who don't care what others are saying about them. They don't care whether they get reelected or not, as long as they are doing the right thing. How many of these yellow-bellied people would have stood up and signed their own death warrant by putting their names on the Declaration of Independence? I bet you couldn't get 1/10 of today's Congress to do that. These people want to hold on to office so badly, they'll do whatever it takes to stay. Strike any bargain they have to. Sell out their constituency. Sell out their principles. Not that they had any, probably had any anyway. Heck, they'll even sell out their country. Why is that? It's money. There is so much money being spent in Washington that it intoxicates everyone who goes up there. They lose their minds and immediately start trying to hang on to their offices no matter what. No matter what they have to do. They want that money, which incidentally brings with it power. And that's the same reason we hang around the Middle East, except it's oil over there, but it's money there again. We've got companies over there needing the military in there to stabilize a country so they can make money over there. Well, that's not our business as a military to stabilize countries for a company's benefit. If that country is threatening us, then our military has a mission to defend us. Other than that, we shouldn't be there. We're up on the bottom of the break here on the Patrick Riggins Show on our new hour, 2 to 3. When we come back, we'll have a couple more things on foreign policy. And let's see, Russia's kicked U.S. aid out of their country, which is pretty good. We'll get to that, too, in the second half hour of the Patrick Riggins Show. This is Patrick Riggins. We'll be back.